I needed the job. That part was simple. My brother's medical bills had piled up faster than I could count, and the VA benefits barely covered a third of what the neurologist wanted every month. When the posting appeared on the county jobs board, night caretaker, Arlington National Cemetery, isolated duty, premium differential pay, I filled out the application before I'd finished reading the requirements. The interview took 11 minutes. Mr. Hewitt, the grounds supervisor, sat behind a gray metal desk in a trailer near the service entrance. He was 71, maybe older, with hands that shook when he poured coffee into a styrofoam cup, but steadied when he slid the paperwork across to me. "You served?" he asked. "4 years, Army. I got out in 19. He nodded. Didn't ask where or what I did. "This isn't grounds crew. You won't mow or trim or fix irrigation. You watch. You walk the sections we tell you to walk. You check the gates and the maintenance sheds. You call if something's wrong." "I can do that. There are rules." He pulled a laminated sheet from a folder. "You follow them exactly. No exceptions. No interpretations. If you can't do that, we'll find someone else tonight." I looked at the pay rate typed at the bottom of the contract, 3 times what I made at the grocery warehouse. "I'll follow them." He studied me for a long time. Then he pushed the sheet across the desk. "Read these now, I'll wait." The laminate was scuffed at the corners, but the text was clear, printed in a serif font that looked like it had come from a typewriter. 10 rules, numbered 1 through 10. 1. You will arrive at the service gate at 10:30 p.m. every shift. Not earlier, not later. Key code is 7742. Change into uniform in the north locker room before you report to the office. 2. Your patrol begins at 11:15 p.m. Walk only the sections marked on your map. Section 12, Section 27, and the Nurses' Memorial are off limits until 3:45 a.m. Do not enter them before this time for any reason. 3. Carry the radio on channel 9. You will receive 3 check-ins during your shift, 12:30 a.m., 2:15 a.m., and 4:50 a.m. Respond only with your badge number and the phrase, "Grounds clear." Do not add extra words. 4. If you encounter another person between 11 p.m. and 5:30 a.m., do not speak to them first. If they speak to you, verify they are wearing a grounds badge on their left chest. If the badge is on the right chest or missing, walk away without responding. Do not look back. 5. The maintenance shed near Section 18 has 2 doors. Use only the east door. The west door stays locked at all times. If you find the west door open, close it, lock it with the red-tagged key, and report it at the end of your shift. Do not look inside before you close it. 6. You will hear footsteps on gravel at various times during your shift. If the footsteps are moving toward you, continue your patrol at normal speed. If the footsteps are moving away from you, stop walking until they fade completely. Count to 30 before resuming. 7. Between 2:10 a.m. and 2:20 a.m., stand at the flagpole in Section 60. Face east. Do not turn around during these 10 minutes, regardless of what you hear behind you. After 2:20 a.m., continue your patrol. 8. If you see a figure in a dress uniform standing at attention in front of any grave, do not approach. Mark the section number on your worksheet and continue your route. These are not your concern. 9. The chapel is locked every night. If you see light coming from the chapel windows, do not investigate. Note the time on your worksheet and move on. The light will be gone before dawn. 10. Your shift ends at 6 a.m. Walk directly to the north locker room, change into your personal clothes, and leave through the service gate. Do not remain on the grounds after 6:15 a.m. I read them twice. Some of them made sense in a security way, check-in protocols, restricted areas, verifying badges. Others felt strange, but not impossible. I'd done stranger things in the Army. Guard duty in Kandahar had its own weird rules, half of them unwritten, all of them born from something that had gone wrong before I got there. Questions, Hewitt asked. What happens if I break one? You won't work here anymore. He said it flat, no threat in his voice, just fact. Anything else I should know? The veteran who had this job before you worked it for 9 years. He retired last month. He's the one who wrote those rules. He learned them the hard way, and he wrote them down so you wouldn't have to. Hewitt tapped the laminate. He knew what he was doing. Trust that. I signed the contract. He gave me a brass key for the service gate, a second key for the locker room, and a third key with a red tag that said Maint 18W in faded marker. Then he gave me a map printed on heavy cardstock. Sections were numbered in pencil, 3 of them 1227, and the nurse's memorial was shaded with diagonal lines. First shift is tonight, he said, 10:30 p.m. I got there at 10:28. The service gate was a simple chain-link panel set into a brick wall on the southeast edge of the grounds, far from the main entrance where tourists came during the day. I punched in 7742, and the lock clicked open. The cemetery spread out under a sky that was more orange than black, lit by the glow of D.C. a few miles north. I could see rows of white headstones marching up low hills, perfectly aligned. Trees clustered in the distance. The air smelled like cut grass and stone dust. The north locker room was a cinder block building near the gate. Inside, a single bulb in a wire cage lit 6 metal lockers and a bench. My uniform was hanging in locker 3 dark blue work pants, a gray shirt with a cemetery patch on the shoulder, a windbreaker, and a flashlight in a belt holster. I changed quickly and locked my civilian clothes inside. The office was a smaller trailer 50 yards west. Hewitt was gone, but a younger guy named Carlson sat at the desk, filling out a maintenance log. He was maybe 30, with a thin beard and a radio clipped to his belt. You're the new night guy, he said. Yeah. I do equipment checks during the day. You'll see me around sometimes, but not at night. At night, it's just you. He handed me a radio, older than the ones I'd used in the Army, but clean and functional. Channel 9. Don't change it. Dispatch will check in 3 times. You know the drill? Badge number and grounds clear. That's it. He looked at me for a second, then back at his log. Hewitt gave you the rules? Yeah. Good. Follow them. I mean it. Don't get creative. I clipped the radio to my belt. Anything else? Your route is on the map. Stick to it. You've got sections marked. If you finish early, do it again. Don't sit in the truck. Don't skip the flagpole. And if you see anyone who shouldn't be here, don't try to be a hero. Just call it in. I nodded. 11:15 start, he said. You've got 20 minutes. I spent the time walking the perimeter of the office, getting used to the weight of the radio and the stiffness of the new boots. The cemetery was quiet. Occasionally I heard a car on the distant road, but mostly it was just wind moving through the oaks and the faint hum of the floodlights that marked the main entrance far to the north. At 11:14, I pulled out the map and traced my route with a finger. Section 18 first, then looping through Section 32 up to Section 60, down through 41, and back. It would take about 90 minutes at a steady pace, then repeat. At 11:15, I started walking. The gravel paths crunched under my boots. Headstones glowed faintly in the ambient light white marble, each one identical in size and shape, each one marking a life that had ended in service. I kept my eyes on the path and my pace steady. The air was cooler than I expected for September, and I zipped the windbreaker halfway. Section 18 covered a low hillside dotted with oaks. The maintenance shed sat at the eastern edge, a flat-roofed structure painted the same gray as the office trailer. 2 doors, just like the rules said. The east door had a simple hasp lock. The west door had a deadbolt and a hasp, both locked, with a loop of chain running through the hasp for extra measure. I checked the east door. Locked. I checked the west door. Locked and chained. I moved on. Section 32 was flat and open, headstones arranged in tight rows that stretched 200 yards. I walked the central path and checked the irrigation box near the southern corner. It was a routine Hewitt had mentioned during the interview. Just verify the lid is closed and the hoses are coiled. Everything looked fine. At 11:53, I reached Section 60. The flagpole stood at the crest of a small hill, the flag lowered and folded for the night. I made a note on the worksheet. Carlson had given me a simple grid with times and section numbers. So far, nothing to report. I kept walking. At 12:30 a.m., the radio crackled. "Night Patrol, this is dispatch, check in." I unclipped the radio. "Badge 749, grounds clear." "Copy, next check at 02:15. The line went silent. I was halfway through Section 41 when I heard the footsteps. They were faint at first, almost hidden under the sound of my own boots on gravel. But when I stopped to check a fence gate, I heard them clearly, slow, rhythmic, moving somewhere to my left in the darkness between sections. I remembered the rule. If the footsteps are moving toward you, continue your patrol at normal speed. I started walking again. The footsteps continued. They didn't get louder or softer. They just paralleled me, 50 yards away, moving through the trees at the edge of the section. I didn't look toward them. I kept my eyes on the path and my pace steady. After 2 minutes, the footsteps faded. I counted to 30, then continued my route. At 1:16 a.m., I finished the first loop and started the second. The cemetery felt different now. Less like a park and more like something else. The headstones seemed closer together. The trees seemed taller. I told myself it was just the lack of sleep. I'd been up since 6 a.m. and my body wasn't used to the night shift yet. At 1:41 a.m., I passed the maintenance shed in Section 18 again. Both doors were still locked. At 2:08 a.m., I reached Section 60 and stood at the base of the flagpole. I checked my watch. 2:09. I had 6 minutes before I needed to be facing east. I used the time to drink water from the bottle in my jacket pocket and to mark the worksheet. So far, I'd noted the time, the sections I'd walked, and the footsteps I'd heard. Nothing else. At 2:10 a.m., I stepped up to the flagpole and faced east. The landscape in that direction sloped gently down toward a line of trees. Beyond the trees, I could see the glow of distant streetlights. I stood still, hands at my sides, and watched the horizon. At 2:12 a.m., I heard something behind me. It sounded like fabric moving, like a jacket or a coat brushing against stone. Then a footstep very close, maybe 10 feet behind me. I didn't turn around. The rule was clear. Do not turn around during these 10 minutes, regardless of what you hear behind you. Another footstep. Closer now, maybe 6 feet. I focused on the tree line. I counted the lights I could see beyond it. 7 lights. Then 8 as another car passed on the distant road. The footsteps stopped. I heard breathing, slow and steady, directly behind me. I kept counting lights, 9, 10. At 2:14 a.m., the breathing stopped. At 2:16 a.m., I heard the fabric sound again, moving away this time, the footsteps retreating down the hill. At 2:20 a.m., I turned around. The hill was empty, just rows of headstones and the gravel path leading south. I checked my watch twice to make sure 10 minutes had passed, then continued my patrol. At 2:15 a.m., the radio crackled. "Night Patrol, this is dispatch. Check in. Badge 749, grounds clear. Copy. Next check at 0450. I finished the second loop at 3:22 a.m. My legs ached and my eyes felt heavy, but the routine was settling in. Walk, check, mark the worksheet, walk again. I could do this. At 3:45 a.m., the shaded sections on my map came into play. Section 12, Section 27, and the Nurses' Memorial were no longer off limits. I added them to my route. Section 12 was small, tucked into a hollow between 2 hills. The headstones here were older, the marble darkened by decades of weather. I walked the perimeter path and checked the iron gate at the entrance. Locked, like it should be. Section 27 was larger, spreading across a flat area near the eastern fence. I walked the main path and checked the bench near the center. Someone had left flowers there during the day, bright red carnations in a glass vase. I noted it on the worksheet. The nurse's memorial was a marble wall engraved with names, set into a quiet corner surrounded by dogwoods. I walked the stone path that circled it and checked the floodlight mounted above. It was on, casting pale light across the names. At 4:27 a.m., I was back in Section 18. I checked the maintenance shed. The east door was still locked. The west door was open. I stopped walking. The door was just cracked, maybe 3 inches, the chain hanging loose from the hasp. I hadn't heard it open. I hadn't seen anyone near the shed. I pulled out the red-tagged key and approached slowly. The rule said, close it, lock it, and report it. It also said, do not look inside before you close it. I reached for the door and pushed it shut without letting my eyes track toward the gap. I heard the bolt slide into place, then looped the chain through the hasp and locked it with the red-tagged key. I stepped back. My hands were shaking. I didn't know why. At 4:50 a.m., the radio crackled. Night Patrol, this is dispatch. Check in. Badge 749, grounds clear. Copy, end of shift at 0600. I finished the route at 5:33 a.m. The sky was starting to lighten in the east, a thin line of gray breaking the dark. I walked back to Section 60 and stood at the flagpole for a moment just to see the sunrise. At 5:58 a.m., I walked to the north locker room, changed into my civilian clothes, and locked the uniform in Locker 3. At 6:04 a.m., I left through the service gate. I drove home with the windows down, letting the cold air clear my head. My apartment was 11 miles away, a studio in a complex that smelled like fried food and cleaning chemicals. I collapsed onto the bed without taking off my shoes and slept until 2 in the afternoon. When I woke up, I texted my brother, told him the new job was fine, told him I'd send the first check as soon as it cleared. He texted back, good, thanks. That night, I arrived at 10:30 p.m. exactly. I changed into uniform, checked in with Carlson's replacement, a woman named Diaz, who barely looked up from her paperwork, and started my patrol at 11:15. The second night was the same as the first. I walked the route, checked the sheds and gates, stood at the flagpole at 2:10 a.m., and heard the same footsteps and breathing behind me. I didn't turn around. At 3:45 a.m., I added the shaded sections to my route. At 4:31 a.m., I checked the maintenance shed in Section 18. Both doors were locked. The third night, the west door was open again. I closed it, locked it, and noted it on my worksheet. When I dropped the worksheet off at the office at the end of my shift, Diaz glanced at it and nodded. Happens sometimes, she said. Just keep locking it. Why does it open? She looked at me. Doesn't matter. Just lock it. The first week passed. Then the second. The routine became automatic. I learned the gravel paths by feel, knew which sections had uneven ground, which gates stuck when I checked them. The footsteps in the dark stopped surprising me. The thing behind me at the flagpole became just another task to endure. On the 14th night, I met someone. It was 1:37 a.m. I was walking through Section 41 near the southern fence when I saw a figure standing near a grave about 30 yards ahead. I slowed down. The figure was wearing a dark uniform, standing at attention, hands at their sides. They didn't move as I approached. I remembered the rule. If you see a figure in a dress uniform standing at attention in front of any grave, do not approach. Mark the section number on your worksheet and continue your route. I pulled out my worksheet and noted the section number 41 and the time. Then I adjusted my course to walk past at a distance. As I passed, I glanced at the figure. It was too dark to see details, but the uniform looked crisp, the posture perfect. They didn't acknowledge me. I kept walking. On the 17th night, I saw light in the chapel. It was 3:22 a.m. I was walking through section 27 when I saw the glow through the trees, soft, golden, coming from the stained glass windows on the chapel's east side. I marked the time on my worksheet and moved on. By the time I looped back past the chapel 40 minutes later, the light was gone. The pay was deposited every 2 weeks. I sent most of it to my brother. The rest covered rent and food and gas. I slept during the day and worked at night and tried not to think about the footsteps or the breathing or the west door that kept opening. On the 23rd night, Hewitt called me into the office before my shift started. "You're doing fine," he said. "No complaints. You follow the rules." "Thanks." He slid a second laminated sheet across the desk. This one was smaller, with 6 items typed in the same serif font. "Amendments," he said. "Read them." I picked up the sheet. Amendment 1. If you hear your name called during your shift, do not respond. Do not turn toward the voice. Continue your patrol. If the voice persists, move to a different section immediately. Amendment 2. Between 3:45 a.m. and 4:15 a.m., avoid Section 12. If you must enter Section 12 during this window, walk only the perimeter path. Do not stop. Do not look at the graves. Amendment 3. If you see a figure wearing a grounds badge on their right chest, do not speak to them. Do not follow them. Report the encounter at the end of your shift. Amendment 4. The maintenance shed in Section 18 has a ventilation grate on the north side. Do not look through the grate. If you hear sounds from inside the shed, step back 20 feet and wait 3 minutes before continuing your patrol. Amendment 5. If your flashlight dies during your shift, replace the batteries immediately using the spares in your jacket pocket. Do not continue your patrol in darkness. If you have no spare batteries, return to the office and request replacements. Amendment 6. If you encounter a figure that does not move, does not breathe, and does not respond to your presence, mark the section number and time on your worksheet. Do not attempt to verify if the figure is real. Continue your route. I read them twice. "What changed?" I asked. "Nothing changed," Hewitt said. "These have always applied. But we wait to give them to you until you're comfortable with the basics. If we give you everything at once, it's overwhelming. This way, you build up to it." "Are there more?" "A few. You'll get them when you're ready." "How do you know when I'm ready?" He tapped the worksheets stacked on his desk. "You haven't skipped a step. You haven't improvised. That means you're ready for the next layer." I looked at the amendments again. "What happens if I break one of these?" "Same as before. You won't work here anymore." He stood up and opened the door. "Shift starts in 10 minutes. That night I walked my route with the amendments folded in my jacket pocket. At 1:53 a.m. I heard my name. It was faint, coming from somewhere in the trees west of Section 32. A man's voice, calm and even. Hey, you there?" I didn't respond. I didn't turn toward the voice. I kept walking north toward Section 60. The voice called again. "I need help, please." I moved faster, not quite running, but close. I crossed into Section 54 and didn't hear the voice again. At 3:57 a.m., I reached Section 12. I checked my watch and the map. I had 18 minutes before the restricted window ended. I could skip it and come back after 4:15, or I could walk the perimeter now. I decided to walk it now. I entered through the iron gate and stayed on the perimeter path, keeping my eyes on the gravel ahead of me. I didn't look at the graves. I didn't stop. It took 4 minutes to circle the section. When I exited the gate and checked my watch, it was 4:01 a.m. At 4:48 a.m., I passed the maintenance shed in Section 18. Both doors were locked. I heard a faint sound from inside, something sliding across concrete, slow and deliberate. I stepped back 20 feet and counted to 180. 3 minutes. Then I continued my patrol. At the end of the shift, I noted the voice and the sound from the shed on my worksheet. Diaz read it and nodded. "Normal stuff," she said. "Is it?" She looked at me. "For here, yeah. I worked 31 shifts before I saw the rookie. He showed up on a Wednesday night. walking out of the office trailer just as I was clipping the radio to my belt. He was young, maybe 24, with a fresh haircut and boots that didn't have a scuff on them. "You're the night guy," he said. "Yeah, I'm Peters. They hired me to help with the winter workload. I'll be doing some evening patrols before you start, maybe overlap with you for an hour or two." I shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident. "You get the rules?" "Yeah." Hewitt went through them with me. Seemed straightforward. I wanted to warn him. I wanted to tell him it wasn't straightforward, that the rules existed because someone before us had learned the consequences of breaking them. But I didn't. He'd figure it out, or he wouldn't. "Good luck," I said. "Thanks." I didn't see Peters again for 8 days. Then, on a Friday night, I found him sitting on the bench in Section 27 at 12:43 a.m. He was slumped forward, elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. I approached slowly. "Peters?" He looked up. His face was pale, his eyes red. "I messed up." I sat down next to him. "What happened?" I looked. "Looked at what?" "The shed, the west door. It was open and I—" He stopped, took a breath. I looked inside before I closed it. I felt my chest tighten. "What did you see?" "I don't know. It was dark, but something moved. And now—" He rubbed his face with both hands. "Now I keep hearing it. Wherever I go, it's following me." I didn't know what to say. The rule had been clear. Do not look inside before you close it. "You need to tell Hewitt," I said. "I can't. He'll fire me. I need this job. My wife's pregnant and we just signed a lease on a new place and—" "You still need to tell him." Peters shook his head. "I'll be fine. I just need to finish the shift. I'll be fine." He stood up and walked away, heading towards Section 41. I watched him go, then checked my watch. 12:46 a.m. I had my own route to finish. At 2:15 a.m., the radio crackled. "Night Patrol, this is dispatch. Check in." I responded. "Badge 749, grounds clear." There was a pause, then, "Badge 823, check in." No response. "Badge 823, check in." Still nothing. "Badge 749, have you seen Peters tonight?" "Yes, Section 27 at 12:43 a.m. "Copy, continue your patrol, we'll handle it." The line went silent. I didn't see Peters again that night. At 6 a.m., I left through the service gate and drove home. I slept badly, dreaming about the west door and what might be inside. The next night, Hewitt was waiting in the office. "Peters quit," he said. "Is he okay?" "He's gone. That's all I know." Hewitt pulled out a third laminated sheet. "You're getting the emergency protocols now. I was going to wait another month, but after Peters, I think you need them sooner." I took the sheet. Emergency protocol. 1. If the power fails during your shift, proceed immediately to Section 60. Stand at the flagpole and do not move until the power is restored or dawn breaks, whichever comes first. Do not use your flashlight. Do not respond to voices or movement. Emergency protocol. 2. If you encounter someone who claims to be a staff member but does not appear on your contact sheet, do not engage. Walk to the nearest section boundary and radio dispatch immediately. Do not turn your back on the person. Emergency protocol 3. If you see more than 3 figures in dress uniforms during a single shift, end your patrol early. Return to the office, lock the door, and wait until 6 a.m. Do not complete your route. Do not respond to radio check-ins. I read them twice. When would I use these? Hopefully never, but if you need them, you'll know. What happened to Peters? Hewitt looked at me for a long time. He broke a rule. That's all you need to know. I worked another 6 weeks without incident. The routine became a rhythm. I could do half-asleep walk, check, mark, walk again. I heard my name twice more, both times ignoring it. I saw the chapel lights 4 more times. I closed the west door on the maintenance shed 11 more times. On the 74th night, the power failed. It happened at 1:38 a.m. I was walking through Section 32 when the floodlights near the main entrance went dark. Then the lights along the fence line, then the light above the office trailer. The cemetery went black. I stood still for a moment, letting my eyes adjust. The ambient glow from the city gave me enough light to see the path, but the sections themselves were just shadows now, headstones blending into the darkness. I pulled out the emergency protocols and read them by the faint glow of my watch. Proceed immediately to Section 60. Stand at the flagpole and do not move until the power is restored or dawn breaks. I started walking north. My boots crunched on gravel, each step too loud in the sudden quiet. I kept the flashlight clipped to my belt. Do not use your flashlight. At 1:44 a.m. I reached Section 60. The flagpole was a dark line against the sky. I walked up the hill and stood at its base, facing east. The city lights were still visible beyond the trees. I counted them again. 14 tonight. At 1:51 a.m. I heard footsteps. They were coming from multiple directions, west, south, maybe north, slow and steady, converging on the flagpole. I didn't move. Do not move until the power is restored or dawn breaks. The footsteps got closer. I heard gravel shifting, branches snapping. Something brushed against my jacket, just a light touch, then moved away. I kept my eyes on the city lights. 14, 15 now as another car passed. At 2:03 a.m. something spoke. You're not supposed to be here. The voice was right next to me, maybe a foot from my left ear. Male, low, calm. I didn't respond. Do not respond to voices or movement. This is our time. You should go. I focused on counting lights. 16, 17. I'm talking to you. The voice moved to my right side. I felt breath on my neck, cold and steady. 18 lights, 19. At 2:27 a.m., the footsteps retreated. The voice stopped. The presence next to me faded. At 2:33 a.m., the power came back on. The floodlights flickered, then steadied. The cemetery was bright again, orderly, the headstones gleaming white in the artificial glow. I waited another minute, then continued my patrol. At 4:50 a.m., the radio crackled. Night patrol, this is dispatch, check in. Badge 749, grounds clear. Copy, power failure logged. You followed protocol? Yes. Good work. End of shift at 0600. I finished the route and left at 6 a.m. My hands didn't stop shaking until I was halfway home. The next night, Hewitt gave me the final amendments. You've earned these, he said. He slid 2 more laminated sheets across the desk, smaller than the others, with only a few lines of text each. Amendment 7. If you encounter a person who looks exactly like someone you know, family, friend, coworker, do not speak to them. Do not approach them. They are not who they appear to be. Walk away immediately and report the encounter at the end of your shift. Amendment 8. If the flagpole ritual at 2:10 a.m. lasts longer than 10 minutes, remain in position until it ends. Do not check your watch. Do not count time. Do not move. You will know when it is safe to continue. Amendment 9. If you see a light moving through the sections at ground level, do not follow it. Do not call out to it. Let it pass and continue your patrol. It is searching for something, but not you. Amendment 10. If you feel the urge to leave the designated paths and walk among the graves, resist. Sit down, count to 100, and drink water. The urge will pass. If it does not pass, radio dispatch and request immediate relief. I read them carefully. Is this everything? This is everything we've written down, Hewitt said. There might be things the veteran knew that he didn't write, things he learned but couldn't put into words. You'll have to figure those out on your own. Did he ever break a rule? Once, in his second year. That's why he knew to write them down. Hewitt leaned back in his chair. He told me the cemetery forgave him that one time, but only once. What did he break? He looked at the graves during the restricted window in Section 12, saw something he shouldn't have. After that, he wrote the rules, followed them perfectly for 7 more years. Where is he now? Retired, living in Pennsylvania. I called him last month to tell him we hired you. He said to tell you good luck. I folded the amendments and put them in my pocket. Thanks. You're doing good work, Hewitt said. Keep it up. That night I walked my route with all the rules memorized. Core rules, amendments, emergency protocols. I could recite them in order without looking. They'd become part of me, a second set of instincts. At 11:42 p.m., I saw a figure in Section 41, dress uniform, standing at attention. I marked it and moved on. At 1:16 a.m., I heard my name. I didn't respond. At 2:10 a.m., I stood at the flagpole and faced east. The footsteps came. The breathing came. At 2:20 a.m., they left. At 3:58 a.m., I walked the perimeter of Section 12 without stopping. At 4:34 a.m., I checked the maintenance shed. The west door was open. I closed it and locked it without looking inside. At 6 a.m., I changed clothes and left through the service gate. I worked 97 shifts before I saw the light moving through the sections. It was 3:31 a.m. I was walking through Section 18 when I saw a soft glow moving between the headstones about 50 yards south. It looked like a lantern swinging gently as if someone was carrying it. I stopped walking and watched it. The light moved slowly, passing behind a tree, then reappearing near a cluster of graves. It didn't follow the paths. It wove through the sections like it was searching. I remembered the rule. Do not follow it. Do not call out to it. Let it pass and continue your patrol. I waited. The light moved west, crossing into Section 27, then faded behind the trees. I counted to 60, then continued my route. At 4:50 a.m., I noted it on my worksheet. Light observed in Section 18 at 03:31. Did not engage. Diaz read it and nodded. Good call. I worked another 13 shifts. The light appeared twice more, always in different sections, always moving slowly between the graves. I let it pass each time. On the 111th shift, I felt the urge. It came at 1:23 a.m. I was walking through Section 32 when I felt the pull, a sudden, overwhelming need to step off the path and walk among the headstones, to stop following the route and just wander. I stopped walking. I sat down on the gravel path and started counting. 1, 2, 3. The urge got stronger. It felt like someone was tugging at my chest, pulling me toward the graves. I could almost hear a voice saying, just a few steps. Just look at the names. 27, 28, 29. I pulled the water bottle from my jacket and drank. The cold helped. The urge faded slightly. 56, 57, 58. By the time I reached 100, the urge was gone. I stood up, clipped the water bottle back in my pocket, and continued my route. At the end of the shift, I noted it on my worksheet. Diaz read it and looked at me. You sat down and counted? Yeah. Good. That's the right move. She paused. It'll try again. Maybe not tonight, maybe not this week, but it'll try. Just keep doing what you did. What is it? Doesn't matter. You resisted. That's what matters. I worked another month. The urge came back 3 more times. Each time I sat down, counted to 100 and drank water. Each time it faded. On the 147th shift, I encountered someone I knew. It was 2:37 a.m. I was walking through Section 41 when I saw my brother standing near a grave. I stopped walking. He was 50 feet ahead, wearing the same jacket he always wore, the same jeans. He was looking down at the headstone, hands in his pockets. I knew it wasn't him. My brother was home, asleep, 12 miles away. But the figure looked exactly like him, same height, same build, same posture. I turned around and walked the other direction. I didn't speak. I didn't call out. I just walked away and adjusted my route to avoid Section 41 for the rest of the night. At the end of the shift, I noted it. Figure resembling family member observed in Section 41 at 02:37. Did not engage. Hewitt called me into the office 2 days later. You handled that correctly, he said. Thanks. It's one of the hardest rules to follow. Seeing someone you know, someone you care about, and walking away. But you did it. He leaned forward. That means you're solid. You understand what we're doing here. What are we doing here? He smiled, just a little. We're keeping watch, that's all. The cemetery has its rhythms, its patterns. We follow the rules, we respect those patterns, and everyone stays safe. The people who visit during the day, the people buried here, us, everyone. And if we break the rules, the patterns break. And when the patterns break, people get hurt. He stood up. You're not going to break the rules, I can tell. I worked another 60 shifts. The routine was complete now, automatic. I knew every section, every gate, every shed. I knew the sound of the footsteps, the rhythm of the breathing at the flagpole, the way the chapel lights glowed through the trees. I stopped thinking about the rules as rules. They were just the way things were. You don't question gravity. You don't question the need to breathe. You don't question the rules. On the 207th shift, I met someone at the flagpole. It was 2:10 a.m. I was standing at my usual spot, facing east, when I heard someone walk up behind me and stop. Not the footsteps I was used to. These were heavier, slower. You've been here a while, a voice said. I didn't turn around. Do not turn around during these 10 minutes, regardless of what you hear behind you. 7 months, the voice continued. That's longer than most people last. I focused on the city lights, 22 tonight. The veteran who had this job before you, he stood here just like you're standing, every night for 9 years, never turned around, never broke the rhythm. 23 lights. You're doing good, keep it up. The voice faded. At 2:20 a.m. I turned around. The hill was empty. I worked another 93 shifts, 300 total. Then Hewitt called me into the office on a Wednesday morning right after my shift ended. You've been here 10 months, he said. Yeah, that's longer than anyone except the veteran. You've followed every rule. You've handled every situation correctly. He paused. We're going to hire another night person, someone to split the load with you. I want you to train them. Like Peters? Peters didn't listen. This person will. I'll make sure of it. Okay. He slid a blank worksheet across the desk. Write down what you've learned. The things that aren't in the rules. The small things that help. I picked up a pen and started writing. Check your batteries at the start of every shift. Keep spares in both pockets. Walk the same speed every night. Your rhythm matters. If you hear something that sounds wrong, footsteps out of sync, a voice with the wrong tone, trust that feeling. Adjust your route. The west door will open. Just lock it. Don't overthink it. At the flagpole, count something. Lights, stars, breaths. It keeps you grounded. If the urge comes, sit down immediately. Don't try to push through it. The figures in dress uniforms are honoring someone. Let them. The light in the chapel isn't for you. Let it be. If you see someone you know, remember they're home safe. Walk away. The cemetery isn't trying to hurt you. It's just showing you what's always been here. I filled 2 pages. Hewitt read them carefully, then nodded. This is good. The new person will read this before their first shift. When do they start? 2 weeks. You'll overlap with them for a month, just like you overlapped with Peters, except this time it'll go better. I worked the next 14 shifts alone. Then, on a Monday night, I met the new person. Her name was Ortiz. She was 31, former Navy, with the same practical look in her eyes that I'd had 10 months ago. We shook hands in the office. Hewitt gave me the rules, she said, and your notes. Good, follow them exactly. I will. We walked the route together that first night. I showed her the sections, the gates, the shed. At 2:10 a.m., we stood at the flagpole together, both facing east. The footsteps came, the breathing came. Ortiz didn't turn around. At the end of the shift, she looked at me. This place is different, she said. Yeah, but the rules work. They do. We worked together for 4 weeks. Then Hewitt split our shifts. I took Sunday through Wednesday. Ortiz took Thursday through Saturday. We left notes for each other on the worksheets, small updates about things we'd seen or heard. West door open at 04:22, locked as usual. Light in section 18 at 03:47. Let it pass. Urge at 01:15, sat and counted, faded by 01:19. The cemetery kept its rhythms. We kept ours. I'm writing this after my 365th shift. 1 full year. Hewitt said I could take a vacation if I wanted, but I told him I'd rather keep working. The routine is part of me now. I don't feel right on nights I'm not walking the sections. My brother's medical bills are under control. I've saved enough to cover 6 months of treatment without working, but I keep working anyway. Last week, Ortiz found something on her worksheet, a note I didn't write. "Thank you," it said. "You're keeping them safe." She showed it to me. The handwriting was old-fashioned, the letters carefully formed. It looked like something from another era. "Who wrote this?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe the veteran. He's in Pennsylvania. Maybe he visited." We didn't report it. We just filed it with the other worksheets and kept working. I worked another 60 shifts. The routine was complete now, automatic. I knew every section, every gate, every shed. I knew the sound of the footsteps, the rhythm of the breathing at the flagpole, the way the chapel lights glowed through the trees. I stopped thinking about the rules as rules. They were just the way things were. You don't question gravity. You don't question the need to breathe. You don't question the rules. On the 207th shift, I met someone at the flagpole. It was 2:10 a.m. I was standing at my usual spot facing east when I heard someone walk up behind me and stop. Not the footsteps I was used to. These were heavier, slower. "You've been here a while," a voice said. I didn't turn around. Do not turn around during these 10 minutes, regardless of what you hear behind you. 7 months, the voice continued. That's longer than most people last. I focused on the city lights. 22 tonight. The veteran who had this job before you, he stood here just like you're standing. Every night for 9 years. Never turned around. Never broke the rhythm. 23 lights. You're doing good. Keep it up. The voice faded. At 2:20 a.m. I turned around. The hill was empty. I worked another 93 shifts, 300 total. Then Hewitt called me into the office on a Wednesday morning, right after my shift ended. "You've been here 10 months, he said. "Yeah, that's longer than anyone except the veteran. You've followed every rule. You've handled every situation correctly." He paused. "We're going to hire another night person, someone to split the load with you. I want you to train them." "Like Peters?" "Peters didn't listen. This person will. I'll make sure of it." "Okay." He slid a blank worksheet across the desk. "Write down what you've learned. The things that aren't in the rules. The small things that help." I picked up a pen and started writing. "Check your batteries at the start of every shift. Keep spares in both pockets. Walk the same speed every night. Your rhythm matters. If you hear something that sounds wrong, footsteps out of sync, a voice with the wrong tone, trust that feeling. Adjust your route. The west door will open. Just lock it. Don't overthink it. At the flagpole, count something. Lights, stars, breaths. It keeps you grounded. If the urge comes, sit down immediately. Don't try to push through it. The figures in dress uniforms are honoring someone. Let them. The light in the chapel isn't for you. Let it be. If you see someone you know, remember they're home safe. Walk away. The cemetery isn't trying to hurt you. It's just showing you what's always been here." I filled 2 pages. Hewitt read them carefully, then nodded. "This is good. The new person will read this before their first shift." "When do they start?" 2 weeks. You'll overlap with them for a month, just like you overlapped with Peters. Except this time it'll go better." I worked the next 14 shifts alone. Then, on a Monday night, I met the new person. Her name was Ortiz. She was 31, former Navy, with the same practical look in her eyes that I'd had 10 months ago. We shook hands in the office. "Hewitt gave me the rules," she said, "and your notes." "Good. Follow them exactly." "I will." We walked the route together that first night. I showed her the sections, the gates, the shed. At 2:10 a.m. we stood at the flagpole together, both facing east. The footsteps came, the breathing came. Ortiz didn't turn around. At the end of the shift, she looked at me. "This place is different," she said. "Yeah, but the rules work." "They do." We worked together for 4 weeks. Then Hewitt split our shifts. I took Sunday through Wednesday. Ortiz took Thursday through Saturday. We left notes for each other on the worksheets. Small updates about things we'd seen or heard. West door open at 0422, locked as usual. Light in section 18 at 0347, let it pass. Urge at 0115, sat and counted, faded by 0119. The cemetery kept its rhythms. We kept ours. On shift 319, something changed. It was a Sunday night in late April. The air was warmer now, carrying the smell of fresh mulch from the day crew's work. I'd arrived at 10:30 exactly, changed into uniform, and started my route at 11:15. Everything was normal until 1:04 a.m. I was walking through section 32 when I noticed the headstones looked different. Not damaged, not moved, just different. The rows seemed closer together, the spacing tighter than I remembered. I stopped and pulled out my map. Section 32, marked in the same place it had always been. But when I looked up, the configuration didn't match. The oak tree near the center was 40 feet east of where it should be. I checked my watch. 1:06 a.m. I checked the map again. Same section number, same boundaries marked in pencil. I stood there for 3 minutes, trying to reconcile what I was seeing with what I knew. Then I remembered something Hewitt had said months ago. The cemetery has its rhythms, its patterns. Maybe the patterns included things that shifted. Maybe the geography wasn't as fixed as I'd assumed. I folded the map and continued my patrol, following the paths as they appeared rather than as they were marked. By the time I completed the loop and returned to section 32, the oak tree was back in its proper position. The headstones had their usual spacing. I noted it on my worksheet. Section 32 appeared reconfigured between 0104 and 0123. Followed visible paths. Section returned to normal configuration. Diaz read it the next morning and didn't seem surprised. Happens sometimes, she said. Usually in spring or fall. Just follow what you see, not what the map says. Should I add that to the notes? Yeah, new people should know. I added a line to my running list. If a section looks different than your map shows, trust your eyes. Follow the paths as they appear. The cemetery adjusts itself sometimes. On shift 327, I found something in section 12. It was 4:02 a.m., safely past the restricted window. I was walking the perimeter path when I saw a small object on the ground near the iron gate. I stopped and crouched down to look at it. A pocket watch, silver, with an engraved case. The inscription read, "To James with gratitude, 1952. I didn't touch it. The rules didn't say anything about found objects, but I'd learned to be cautious about anything that seemed out of place. I stood up, marked the location on my worksheet, and continued my patrol. At the end of the shift, I reported it to Diaz. She made a note and said she'd have the day crew check on it. If it's still there tomorrow, we'll log it as lost and found, she said. If it's gone, don't worry about it. The next night, the watch was gone. I checked the same spot at 4:08 a.m., nothing but grass and gravel. On shift 334, I heard singing. It was 3:37 a.m. I was walking near the chapel when I heard a woman's voice, soft and clear, singing something that sounded like a hymn. The melody was old-fashioned, the kind of thing you'd hear in a church from the 1940s. I stopped walking and listened. The voice was coming from inside the chapel. I could see faint light through the stained glass windows, the same golden glow I'd seen before. I remembered Amendment 9. If you hear singing from the chapel, smile. Someone's being remembered. I smiled. I didn't know who was being remembered or who was doing the remembering, but it felt right to acknowledge it. The singing continued for another minute, then faded. The light went out. I continued my patrol. On shift 341, Ortiz radioed me. It was 2:43 a.m. I was in section 60, having just finished the flagpole ritual, when the radio crackled. Badge 749, this is badge 806. I unclipped the radio. Go ahead. I'm at the maintenance shed in section 18. Both doors are locked, but I can hear something inside. It's loud, like furniture being moved. I remembered Amendment 4. If you hear sounds from inside the shed, step back 20 feet and wait 3 minutes before continuing your patrol. Step back 20 feet, I said. Wait 3 minutes. Don't investigate. There was a pause. Copy that. Stepping back. I waited, listening to the static. At 2:46 a.m., Ortiz came back on. Sounds have stopped. I'm continuing my patrol. Good. Mark it on your worksheet. Will do. Thanks. We didn't discuss it further. She'd followed the rule, the situation had resolved, and we both moved on. On shift 348, I saw 2 figures in dress uniforms. The first was at 1:51 a.m. in section 41, standing at attention in front of a grave facing the headstone. I marked it on my worksheet and continued. The second was at 3:23 a.m. in section 27, same posture, same stillness. I marked it and continued. At 4:37 a.m., I saw a third figure in section 60, then a fourth in section 18 at 5:09 a.m. 4 figures, one more than the threshold. I remembered emergency protocol 3. If you see more than 3 figures in dress uniforms during a single shift, end your patrol early. Return to the office, lock the door, and wait until 6 a.m. I adjusted my route and walked directly to the office. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and locked it behind me. Then I sat at the desk and waited. The radio crackled at 4:50 a.m. Night patrol, this is dispatch, check in. I unclipped the radio. Badge 749, ending patrol early per emergency protocol 3, currently secure in office. There was a pause. Copy that. Remain in office until 0600. Dispatch will monitor. Copy. I sat in the office for the next 70 minutes. I heard footsteps outside twice, passing close to the walls but never stopping. I heard something tap on the window at 5:23 a.m., 3 soft knocks, but I didn't look. At 6 a.m., I changed clothes and left through the service gate. Hewitt called me that afternoon. You handled that correctly, he said. 4 figures means something's happening that's beyond our scope. The protocol is to get out of the way and let it resolve. What was happening? A gathering, an event, something that happens maybe once or twice a year. The cemetery takes care of it on its own. We just need to stay clear. Has Ortiz seen 4 figures? Not yet, but she will eventually, and she'll follow the same protocol you did. On shift 355, my brother called. It was 7:15 p.m. I was eating dinner before my shift when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. I like to keep the hours before work quiet, focused, but I saw his name and picked up. Hey, I said. Hey, just wanted to say thanks. For what? For everything. The money, the help. I saw the doctor today. He says the treatment's working. I might be able to go back to work part-time next month. I felt something loosen in my chest. That's great. Yeah, and it's because of you, because you took that job and stuck with it. He paused. I know it's not easy. Night shift at a cemetery, but you did it anyway. It's fine. It's actually a good job. Still, thank you. You're welcome. After we hung up, I sat at the table for a while, looking at my uniform folded on the chair. My brother was getting better. The bills were manageable. The job had done exactly what I needed it to do. But that wasn't why I kept working there. Not anymore. I kept working there because the cemetery needed someone who would follow the rules, someone who would stand at the flagpole at 2:10 a.m. and not turn around, someone who would close the west door without looking inside, someone who would keep the rhythms. That night I arrived at 10:30 exactly. I changed into uniform, checked my batteries, filled my water bottle, and started my patrol at 11:15. Everything was normal. I walked the sections, checked the gates, stood at the flagpole. I heard the footsteps, the breathing, the usual sounds. I closed the west door at 4:31 a.m. At 6 a.m., I left through the service gate and drove home. Shift 356. Shift 357, shift 358. The spring turned to summer. The nights got shorter, the air warmer. The cemetery stayed the same. On shift 362, Hewitt gave me a key. "This is for the veteran," he said. "He's in the hospital, stage 4 lung cancer. He wants to see you." "Why me?" "Because you've lasted. Because you followed the rules. Because you understand." Hewitt wrote an address on a slip of paper. "He's at Walter Reed, room 417. He doesn't have much time." I drove there on my day off, a Thursday afternoon. The hospital was huge, institutional, filled with the smell of disinfectant and the sound of machines beeping. I found room 417 on the 4th floor. The veteran was small in the bed, his body wasted by illness, but his eyes were clear. He smiled when he saw me. "You're the new guy," he said. "Yeah." "How long?" 11 months, 362 shifts. He nodded. "Good, sit down." I pulled a chair close to the bed. "The rules work," he said. "You know that by now." "I do. But they're not complete. There are things I learned that I couldn't write down, things you can only understand by doing the job." He took a breath, slow and careful. "The cemetery is alive, not in the way a person is alive, but in its own way. It has needs, patterns, cycles. We're part of that. We're the ones who keep the interface stable." Interface? Between the cemetery and the people who visit, between the past and the present, between the dead and the living. He coughed, a wet sound. "When we follow the rules, we maintain that interface. When we break them, things bleed through, things that shouldn't." "What happened when you looked at the graves?" He was quiet for a long time. "I saw them, all of them. Every person buried in Section 12, not their bodies, their presence, their weight, the accumulation of all those lives, all those deaths, all concentrated in one place." He looked at me. "It was too much. I couldn't carry it. I almost quit that night. But you didn't." "No, because I realized something. The rules aren't just protection for us. They're protection for them, for the people buried there. The rules keep them contained, respected, honored. Without the rules, they'd spill out. They'd be everywhere. And that wouldn't be good for anyone. So we're guards. No, we're caretakers. We're keeping things in balance." He closed his eyes. "When I retire, when I die, the cemetery will need someone who understands that. I think that's you. I'll keep doing the job." "Good. And when you train the next person, tell them what I told you. Tell them it's not about fear. It's about respect. It's about maintaining something important." "I will." He died 3 days later. Hewitt called to tell me. The funeral was scheduled for the following Tuesday at Arlington, Section 60, near the flagpole. I attended in my civilian clothes, standing at the back of the small gathering. Hewitt was there, Diaz, Ortiz, a few others I didn't recognize. The ceremony was brief, military, precise. When they lowered the casket into the ground, I felt something shift, like the cemetery was acknowledging the loss, like it was making room for one more. That night, I worked shift 365, 1 full year. Hewitt said I could take a vacation if I wanted, but I told him I'd rather keep working. The routine is part of me now. I don't feel right on nights I'm not walking the sections. My brother's medical bills are under control. I've saved enough to cover 6 months of treatment without working, but I keep working anyway. Last week, Ortiz found something on her worksheet, a note I didn't write. "Thank you," it said. "You're keeping them safe." She showed it to me. The handwriting was old-fashioned, the letters carefully formed. It looked like something from another era. "Who wrote this?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe the veteran." "He's dead." "I know. We didn't report it. We just filed it with the other worksheets and kept working. Tonight is shift 366. I'm getting ready to leave for the service gate. I've checked my batteries, filled my water bottle, reviewed the rules in my head. When I retire, if I retire, I'll write my own rules for the person who comes after me. I'll add the things I've learned, the small adjustments that make the nights easier. Check the west door twice if the wind is strong. If the footsteps stop suddenly, wait 30 seconds before moving. The figure at the flagpole means no harm. It's just keeping watch like you. If you hear singing from the chapel, smile, someone's being remembered. The light isn't searching for you. It's searching for someone who's already found. I'll write them down clearly, number them carefully, laminate them like the others, and I'll tell the next person what Hewitt told me. The cemetery forgives mistakes, but only once. The veteran who had this job before me worked it for 9 years. I'm starting my 2nd year tonight. Maybe I'll make it to 9, maybe longer. The rules work if you follow them. The cemetery keeps its rhythms. We keep ours. That's all there is to it. I'm leaving in 10 minutes. The service gate is waiting. Section 18 is waiting. The flagpole is waiting. The cemetery is always waiting, and I'll be there, walking the sections, checking the gates, standing at the flagpole at 2:10 a.m., facing east, not turning around, keeping watch, keeping the rhythms, following the rules.